Okay, good morning, class.
Good morning.
Okay, so before we're going to proceed to our topic this morning, can someone first tell me what is our topic all about yesterday? Okay, yes, Reynald.
Communication is giving, receiving, or exchanging ideas, information, signals, or messages through appropriate media, enabling individuals or groups to persuade, to seek information, to give information, or to express emotions. This broad definition includes body language, uh, skills, or speaking and writing.
Okay, thank you, Reynald. That is correct. That communication is about the exchange of information and ideas. So, what else did we discuss yesterday?
Verbal and nonverbal communication. Verbal communication refers to our use of words, while nonverbal communication refers to communication that occurs through means other than words, such as body language, gestures, and silence.
And that is also correct. That there are two types of communication, which are the nonverbal and the verbal communication, which the verbal communication refers to the use of words, while the nonverbal communication is refers to the gestures or signals that we are trying to portray to our listener or someone we are talking to. So, okay, what else did we discuss yesterday? I think there's still two remaining types of communication. Okay, yes, Sheila?
The visual and written communication. Visual communication is the use of visual elements to convey ideas and information, which include but are not limited to signs, typography, drawing, graphic designs, illustration, industrial design, advertising, animation, and electronic resources. Humans have used this visual communication since prehistoric times, and the written communication is the sending of messages, orders, or instruction in writing through letters, circulars, manuals, reports, telegrams, office memos, bulletins, etc. It is a formal method of communication and is less flexible.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. It is also correct that there are still two remaining types of communication, which are the visual and the written communication. So, Sheila said earlier that visual communication is about conveying our message through picture or drawings, and also our prehistoric people a long time ago uses this type of communication. Next is the written communication. So written communication is we are conveying our message through a written or any written materials. Okay, so to sum up our topic yesterday, there are four types of communication, which are the first, the non-verbal and the verbal communication. Next is the visual and the written communication. Okay, thank you for your cooperation, class. Okay, so today we will going to proceed to our topic, which are the models of communication. And I think I have given you the topic yesterday for your reporting, right? Okay, very good. So I think we are all set. And to start, let's have group 1.
Good day, everyone. Today we will going to discuss about the linear models. We all know that communication is the process of creating, interpreting, and negotiating meaning. Communication can be verbal, nonverbal, or textual. It can be oral, visual, or even physical. Although communication occurs in a variety of different ways, it is always a learned behavior. While almost human beings are born with the physical abilities to speak, to hear, and to see, and so on. People must learn to communicate through codes, symbols, and systems of language. In this way, communication is a collective practice in which people are used symbols to generate and interpret meaning. So, linear models are originally developed by Shannon and Weaver in 1948. This model describes communication as a linear process. This model describes how a sender or a speaker transmits a message to receiver or listener. More specifically, the sender is the source of the message. A message may consist of the sounds, words, or behaviors in a communication interaction. The message itself is transmitted through a channel. The pathway or route for communication to a receiver who is the target or recipient of the message. There may be obstacles in the communication process or noise. Noise refers to any interference in the channel or distortion of the message. This is fairly simple model in which message is simply passed from the sender to receiver.
Yes, in addition, the Shannon and Weaver model, while the linear model was highly influenced, during the mid-20th century, this model is perhaps too simple. Its limitations are easy to see if you pause to think about the beliefs about communication or assumptions that made in this model. First, this model assumes that communication only goes in one direction. Here, a person can be a sender or receiver, but not both. This is problematic because communication in action is more dynamic than the linear model suggests. In action, communication involves a give and take between senders and receivers in which listeners are not simply passive receptacles for a sender's message. This model is also limited because it provides only one channel for only one message. Finally, it implies that messages themselves are clear-cut with a distinct beginning and distinct end. However, communication is rarely, if ever, as neat and tidy as a linear model would suggest.
Okay, thank you, Group 1. So, Group 1 discussed about the linear models. So, that they are correct. So, as to add up, the linear communication is a one-way type of communication where the sender encodes a message, then uses a certain channel of communication, which is a verbal communication or any non-verbal communication, and send it to the receiver who encodes the message. So, this type of communication, there is no feedback right away from the receiver. So, this is only a one-way type of communication. So, take note of that, one-way type of communication. So, I will be providing you some examples. The first example is the speech. Next is a television, or we are watching television news, or we are taking down notes about news from the television, and also sending a memo or a mail. So thank you, Group 1. So let's proceed to the Group 2.
Interactional model in the moves to a more dynamic view of communication. Interactional model follow two channels in which communication and feedback flow between sender and receiver. Feedback is a simple a response that a receivers give to a sender. A feedback can be verbal, I, E, O yes, or non-verbal, I, E, and O smile. It can help sender knows if their message was received and understood. The field of experience refers to how environment experience cultures by confusing and flow and feedback. Keep in mind that each person brings a unique field of experience to an interaction. Likewise, each communications interaction is unique. Most importantly, feedbacks indicates comprehension. While the interactional model is more dynamic than the linear model. The final features of this model is the field of experience. And even heredity can influence how a sender constructs a message. It still contains some limitations. For instance, these models implies that while people can be both a sender or receiver, they cannot do so simultaneously. In live communications, rules are not.
Thank you, Group 2. So the Group 2 tackles or talks about the interactional or the interactive model. So this is a process in which participants alternate positions as sender and receiver. So in this type of communication, the sender can also be the receiver and the receiver can also be the sender. So it is a two-way type of communication. So if the linear is a one-way type of communication, this interactional or interactive model is a two-way process type of communication, and this provides a feedback right away from the receiver or the sender. Okay, take note of that this interactive or interactional model is a two-way process type of communication. Okay, so I will be giving you some example as well. The first example is the chat rooms. Okay, chat rooms. Next is social media, and next is just simply talking to your friends, to your someone, or you just talk to someone. So these are the examples. So let's proceed to group 3.
Good day everyone, I'm Roger Bagandas Jr. and for today, I'm going to discuss to you what is transactional model of communication. Transactional model of communication refers to the continuous exchange of information where both the sender and receiver are both in the process and take turns to communicate messages. The transactional model of communication is often used for interpersonal communication. Examples of transactional models includes face-to-face meeting, a telephone call, a Skype call, or a chat session. Interactive training or a meeting in which all attendees participate by sharing ideas and comments. As with the linear model, noise can be affect the communication. Everybody talk and interactions are also a form of transactional models of communication. It is more efficient for communicators with similar environment and individual aspects. For instance, communication between people who know each other is more efficient as they share same social system. The transactional model has a number of interdependent processes and components including the encoding and decoding process, the communicator, the messages, the channel, and noise. Transactional model, generally speaking, refers to a model in which interactions in two directions are considered together. For example, from one person to another person and back. Another example, from one subsystem and back also. Transactional model, the sender which wishes to convey information to a receiver. Sender encodes the message using a method such as speech or writing. The receiver decodes the message by listening or reading. Context and noise are two critical barriers to effective communication. That's all. Thank you for listening. God bless everyone.
Okay, thank you, Group 3. So the Group 3 talks about the transaction model or the transactional model. So it is about the continuous exchange of information where both the sender and the receiver are involved in the process and takes turn to communicate message. So this type of communication, we communicate in order to create relationship. And next is the people create shared meaning in more dynamic process. So in here, it is more on collaboration to create a good relationship while in a transaction type of communication. So we communicate to create relation. So I think everybody have tackled and discussed all the important information. So we don't have time. I will just be giving you an activity where you will be going to write your reflection or your learnings about our topic this day, and please pass it tomorrow for the uh, accomplishment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so class, thank you everyone and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye,
Goodbye,
ma'am.
ma'am.